Hello, everyone, and welcome to a live stream on my channel. Today, this is not an ordinary live stream. We have the GOAT in the space, one of the OGs, I think the earliest person to ever publicize the fact that they bought Bitcoin. So it's such a pleasure to have you on, Davinci. Man, how are you doing? It's great to have you on.
Yeah, you know how I do. 5 by 5. Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
That's amazing, man. So, yeah, we've got a few things to talk about today. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, the long-term future for Bitcoin, because I think there's some interesting things that Da Vinci says, which I would like to kind of just hear a elaboration on some of the things. And then we'll get into some altcoins, because I know people say you're a Bitcoin maxi and that's all you invest in, but you invest in a lot of other things other than just Bitcoin. So I'm also looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. So, yeah, let's start off with Bitcoin. We've just had the ETF. Some would say it was anticlimactic. Some would say it was expected. What do you kind of have to say about what's going on right now with Bitcoin and the ETF and the short term thing? We know we're focused on the long term, but what do you have to say about what's going on currently?
The saying goes: buy the rumor, sell the news, or buy the anticipation and sell the fact, right? Because that's always the case in markets, and so you have to understand that fundamental analysis of markets. Markets basically do not reward the average Joe who is like, oh yeah, I hear about that ETF going on that Bitcoin thingy. Maybe that's gonna cause the prices to explode. I should probably buy that because if those corporations get to buy some, that means that the price will go up, number go up. Yeah, okay. See, it doesn't work that way. They know you think that way. So they push you on the news, talk about the ETF, so you can go buy right at the top, and then sell at the bottom.
Exactly. And that's why I always say to people, unless you're a really, an expert in the space or you really understand trading and what the big money are doing, under these kind of news events, it's a little bit crazy as a retail investor to be trading and putting leverage on. Most of the time you're going to get wrecked. And I know a lot of people have been doing that and they've been getting wrecked. So what would you say to people under these events? Would you say just ignore kind of news events, don't try and trade them because the risk is just outweighing the potential reward, as an average retail investor?
Oh no, I think you should trade them. It's just because I traded it that event myself, and I'm in a short where I'm up to $70,000, right? Because I shorted the market. Now that was because I knew I had a trading plan. I knew what I was going to do, and I executed it exactly as planned. Now, not everybody has the stones to do that, right? I mean, even I was a little nervous shorting it at the at my entry point, which was 40. It was 48,615, and and as it went up there, it just went up there really, really fast, really fast. As I was watching as I was watching it, and it kept going right to 49,000, right? As I shorted it with $500,000, and I was supposed to go a million, and I just didn't. I was like, I'll just put half now and the other half later. But I should have went full. But anyways, and it just reversed immediately shortly after it got to 49,000 and reversed down straight down and to where it is today after a week of shorting. Yeah, and it's down even more, and I predict that it will go down even further. And I talk about where my target is and everything on my channel. If you head over to davincej15.com, and if you also head over to Davinci J15 on YouTube, of course.
Absolutely, man. I highly recommend that everyone goes and checks out your channel. It's linked in the description as well, so go and check it out. Also, follow Da Vinci on X, it's called now as well. You get some regular
Mm-hmm.
tweets or posts or opinions, whatever you want to call it. So go and check that out. So, in terms of the ETF and the long-term impact of this and also the cyclical impact on Bitcoin, do you think that it was kind of exaggerated how much of an impact this is gonna have in terms of potentially breaking the 4-year cycle? You know, many people called for it to get Bitcoin to all-time highs. Where do you see it in terms of it as a catalyst? Do you see the Bitcoin halving as more of a influential thing on Bitcoin, or do you think this ETF is really gonna break the cycle, this time around?
Well, I think the ETF will give us an advantage in the cycle because of what these hedge fund managers, right? And let's see, institutional players, they saw what Bitcoin's doing. They can't buy Bitcoin based in its current form. It's legally a commodity, and as a commodity, there's certain rules on how they can invest in commodities for themselves and for their clients. And so they have organized this situation so that it's easier for them to invest in Bitcoin and commodities, right, through ETFs. And so they don't care about, oh, Bitcoin's the new money. Bitcoin will take over. They don't give a flying frack. Okay? They just want to make money. so, and so they understand that, this is going up, number go up, and they want a part of it. And so they don't want to sit on the sidelines of number go up. And so they can manipulate it more and get more, squeeze the little people a little bit more, right? Then, than the people who just, go to the spot exchanges and do that, right? So they're going to have some fun with this. They're going to put in some big money, and we're going to see big valuations in Bitcoin coming up. Don't get it twisted. If you don't think, oh, who's going to afford a $400,000 Bitcoin? Yo, the bond market's in the trillions of dollars, and you're not allowed to play there. But there are a lot of people that do, and it ain't
Yep.
you, and it ain't me, and it ain't most of us. It's like 1% of the population is in the bond market. And so they can play in these kind of markets and do very well, right? So yeah, they're going to push these things like crazy in large numbers, and so it's gonna be a fun time.
It certainly will. And we know if you've been in crypto for a few years, like Davinci has, you know that Bitcoin has been very, very volatile in the last few years. And do you believe that the ETF and just the big money players getting involved in Bitcoin, they're going to try and suppress it or maybe just reduce the volatility, right? Because you don't want these 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds with kind of pensions and savings. You don't want them investing in super volatile kind of high risk assets, right? So do you think that Bitcoin is just going to naturally get less volatile? Maybe this is the last major cycle where we see a huge amount of volatility and then it starts to calm down maybe later onwards until obviously the dollar collapse.
Of course, yes. I think I do believe that you are correct in this assumption that this might be the last bull run that we're going to see because of the curve, the expanding curve of Bitcoin expands rapidly and then slows down, right? So the same with its volatility then, right? As it expands and then slows down because of the amount of that's coming in, it becomes irrelevant to the amount that's actually there. We're going to see a slowdown in because it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't affect inflation when or inflation of the currency, or the deflation actually in this case, not inflation, but deflation of the currency, because the percentage that comes in is irrelevant to the percentage that's available for people to trade. So it has no effect on supply and demand. But that's the interesting thing about Bitcoin, is that it doesn't matter what the demand is. There is no more supply, period. Right?
Yep.
You could demand all you want, right? By via price, but it ain't gonna increase the supply. While gold, right? If gold went to like $20,000 an ounce tomorrow, right, and stayed there long enough, there would be a lot of gold mining happening. A lot, a whole lot more. Mining would bring the price down eventually because of its high value. A lot of mines that were not viable would become instantly viable. A lot of ideas such as like, oh, did you know that most of the world's gold is in the ocean in small particles? All of a sudden, that finding a way to get that gold becomes a priority. No matter how, because it could be like $10,000 per ounce to pull it out, but that's all right. You got 20. You're
Right.
getting 20, right? So yeah, we can see that possibility. The higher the price gold goes, but can't do that. It's not possible with Bitcoin. No matter what you do, there ain't no way you're gonna force more out.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting point. And that's why ultimately Bitcoin is the truest form of value, right? Because it's so scarce and you can't find it on other planets. You can't find it deep in the ocean. It's all out there. And there's no mystery way of finding it, right? So long term, right? Because I hear you're very, very bullish on Bitcoin long term, as I am. It's the biggest project, or not project, but coin by far that I hold in my portfolio. And I think that most people should still not discount Bitcoin and just go all into altcoins because it's just too risky. Bitcoin is the sound cryptocurrency for the long term. But what do you think long term? Because the $1 million Bitcoin has been something which a lot of people have talked about. You know, you hear these crazy price predictions sometimes of multiple millions and things like that just in the next few years. We know it's going to take time, but how do you think it's going to play out for Bitcoin long term? We've got kind of the 10 most valuable things you can get your hands on in the world. Do you see it flipping gold? Where do you see it in kind of this upcoming crypto bull run and then maybe long term 2030 and beyond?
Well, it's the here's the thing. We did say that there's no way to squeeze more Bitcoin out than that's of what's already existing. But there is another way to squeeze more Bitcoin out. It's through getting the people who hold it to sell. And so everybody has a price. Everyone. And so and this price is always in dollars because you pay your debts and taxes in dollars, and so and most things are purchased in dollars or the local currency. So it doesn't have to be U.S. dollars, but in fiat currency basically. So the days coming where some people will sell at some price. Now, where do I think the prices will be that'll push this thing up to? Probably they're going to do for this year, for 2025 maybe, is over 160,000 for sure.
Interesting.
And eventually there's going to be a massive bull market the size of the tulip bubble that comes because Bitcoin has intersected with our current financial system coming to an end, coming to its close. Our financial system is a fraud perpetrated on every single human being on this planet. Whether you agree, disagree with that, doesn't matter. It is, right? And like all frauds, it comes to an end. And so if you were baiting, for example, if you were investing with Bernie Madoff for 30 years, you're like, what? You're telling me he's a fraud? That's crazy. How can he last 30 years? It doesn't matter how long he lasts, right? Defrauding people. His point is that it's fraud, right? So that's what I like to counter with people who are just saying, yeah. it's been less than this long. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter how long it lasts. It just means they've managed to keep hide the fact that it's fraud for quite some time. And yeah, if you don't know that, that's an example of their good work, right? Tell me, have you learned about how money works and where it comes from in school? Oh no, well that's not by accident.
Yep. Yep.
Right? If I'm defrauding you, I'm not going to have your school teach you that I'm defrauding you. That'd be fucking dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's crazy. You know, the US dollar and the pound and the euro and all these currencies, these are the frauds, but but they're so valuable in terms of like the amount of money flowing around and how much people use these. But there's no value in them at all because they're just getting printed as we speak right now.
Exactly.
So if they found a currency, maybe Bitcoin, which, you know, can be used on a mass scale, which is scarce, it brings in a lot of value. And this ties into something interesting, which is Bitcoin gold, or is Bitcoin a form of payment, or is it both? Like, what is Bitcoin? Because it's an actual interesting question, because a lot of people who invest in Bitcoin don't even know really what it is. Is it gold? Is it a store of value? Or do you see it as a potential form of payment?
It's money, period. Right? If you say it's not money, you don't know what money is, right? And because that's the reason why you don't know what money is, it's because you didn't teach you what it is. And so, if I were to lift this up and show it to you, what would you call this? Just by looking at it, what is it?
An iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. It's this general cell phone, right?
Yep.
Right. Seeing this, right? You know what it is, right? But looking at it, do you have to explain to somebody what it is, right?
No.
Right? We're all familiar with what a cell phone is, right? And not just because we learned it in school, but in general from television, newspapers, and all that kind of stuff. But you don't get that kind of information on the phone. I can lift this up and you can say it's a salt shaker. I can lift this up and say, what is this?
Spoon.
Yeah, exactly. These are all inventions, right? That you know what it is, right? And it's really basic. But money is just another invention. It's another invention where what does it do? It stores your wealth over time. And also it allows you to trade your wealth or your what you've got to be stored later on, to be traded for something else, to somebody else. So that's what money is basically. And because it's another thing like the spoon, you can just you invent a better one. You can invent a better money. And so Bitcoin is a better money. It's a better money because one, you could transfer it to anyone, anywhere, anytime, instantly, without it being stolen in between when you transfer it. There's no one who's going to be able to steal your Bitcoin when I transfer it from one person to another. Try to do that with gold across the planet. Do you know how many stops you'll get into just to get it from one place to another, no matter how rich you are? and you'd be lucky that some government doesn't confiscate it right? So yeah, it can't be transferred that easily. It's possible. It's not impossible. Just saying it is a difficult thing to do, to move gold across large bodies of land and water, whilst Bitcoin is not. We could transfer it anywhere.
Yes.
So just that one fact alone makes it very, very valuable. But there's more, and there's more. Wait, I don't know if you guys ever saw those commercials at like, you know, where they're selling you like Sham Wow or Ginsu knives or something like that, and they always say, "And there's more."
Yeah, there's always more.
Yeah, there's always I know people were like the millenniums and stuff like that. People don't know these old TV shows and stuff like that. They don't watch TV anymore. But anyways, there's more because Bitcoin is also unconfiscatable, and no one knows you actually have it. You can go across planes with across the world, anywhere in the world, with billions of dollars of Bitcoin, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no smelling it, there's no tasting it, there's no scanning for it. That's, by the way, that's what the scanning at the airports for. Is not for bombs or guns. It's for gold and money and wealth that you're trying to take out of the country. so,
I
right,
find it
and
funny when they say the Bitcoin is used for fraud and criminal activity and money laundering, but then they don't mention the US dollar or anything else that's used for that. It's like a two-way system, right? They only use that kind of argument when it suits them, but they don't use
exactly.
it with the dollar or any of the other assets that are used to launder money, such as art,
But
for example, as well.
yeah, but let me finish off by saying there's one other feature about Bitcoin that no other money in history has ever had, is that money was always associated with a person or a group of people, meaning that they had to be responsible for the money. Whether I gave you cash and you were responsible for the cash, or you gave that cash to somebody else to say, hey, you know what, you're going to keep it for me, and when I need it, I will get it, or I will instruct you to transfer it to somebody else. That's how it always was. Someone was holding it until Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin can be held by a thing, which opens a huge door of possibilities of inventions. It is the biggest invention the next biggest invention to electricity. Today, everybody uses electricity, and we know what it was. What when we first used it, it was only used for lights, but we know now it's used for communications. It's used for refrigerators, for for cars now, and for so many things, computers, cell phones, everything, right? More than just lights, but only that light was the only thing people could imagine. Now we have a money system that you think, well, it's about transferring wealth from one person to another. Yes, but it can do a lot more, and that's the cool thing. We're going to see inventions that we could not even think about today, because we're only thinking about transferring wealth.
Absolutely. And you kind of tie into my next question about Bitcoin, which is the and there's more part of it. And that ties into this whole recent BRC20 ordinal space, building on Bitcoin, NFTs. I'm really interested, from someone who's been in Bitcoin for so long and knows about it as well as you do. What are your honest thoughts about this space? Do you think it's a net good for Bitcoin, allowing for more potential use cases with the Bitcoin network? Or do you see it as um, unnecessary or clogging the network? Or what are your thoughts about this whole space? Because I didn't think this was possible. I was kind of surprised when I started seeing this space emerge. And that makes you think, where's Bitcoin going to be in 5 years' time? Are they going to be able to scale it to a very good degree? What are the solutions that these genius developers are working on?
Okay, so these people who hate on Bitcoin's ordinals and stuff like that because it's crazy. People are paying the network for this feature. I'd like you to understand a little bit of logic here. Higher prices is a cure for higher prices, and lower prices is a cure for lower prices. This logic is understood, right, in economics, but except for when it comes to social or desires, right? It's when something hurts, right? You always go, "Oh, my head hurts. Oh my god, I'm gonna take it as what's it called, Tylenol." But if you're having a stroke, that will kill you, right? So stopping the pain is not going to fix it, right? That's the thing people need to understand. Stopping the pain is not going to fix it, right? So, another example of that is when New York had a flood, and then gasoline went to high prices, and because people are like they call it price gouging. Gasoline was a little difficult so to get there, so you're gonna have to pay the highest price so that you're not wasting it, you're not like hoarding it yourself, right? And on top of that, that high price, somebody outside of New York will go, oh, I can get more money for my gasoline, I can get it there for half the price. And all of a sudden, the problem of high prices of gasoline gets solved by some innovative way that brings gasoline to everyone for cheaper. So enough. Don't let don't let politicians or people grumbling about prices or like because they're higher for now. Because don't worry, it solves itself. You complain about housing prices, don't worry, it'll solve itself.
Yeah. Man, it's such a unique take, and what I love about Davinci and the way how he articulates himself is everything is unique a lot of the time. The way how you articulate something isn't how most people would, but it's great the way how you do it. And so BRC20 Ordinals, this is like a whole new space, and I'm a fan of it personally. Now, yes, there's high fees, but like you say, that could solve itself. It's very early on. Ethereum had high fees last bull run, and they're saying they're going to reduce, right? So, um, also, I'm guessing the miners would love this, right? Because the miners are making a killing off all the fees, because they get a cut in all of it, right? So, would that incentivize even more usage of the network overall? Would you say?
No, the high prices makes the network less friendly to your application, right? So, for example, the Ordis will get less and less friendly because, hey, you know what? Although my Ordi's gone up a lot of money, I still got to sell it on the network and transaction fees. Let's just say your ordinal is up is $20 or it was from 1 cent, right? And okay, now your transaction to that already is ordinal that you're trying to transfer is $20. So you didn't make anything. So yeah, this will clear itself in the future, and there won't be any problems. So yeah, I don't see any issues. The market will see through it and make its decision and then go, yeah, forget this, and then they'll go back to normal, right? Everybody will forget the ordinals, they'll forget putting stuff on the blockchain because it's just too expensive. Problem solved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you one final question, and this is one which my audience obviously want to know. You've talked about Casper a few times, and it's a project which I'm bullish on. I don't hold as much Casper as Bitcoin like some people do. I hold a lot more Bitcoin than Casper. But I'm guessing you've had more time to kind of dig into this now. It's seeing a nice dip, better prices than what it was maybe a month or so ago. How do you feel about Casper? Compared to Bitcoin, compared to other cryptos maybe in the space, it's claiming a lot. It's saying a lot. It's solving the trilemma, smart contracts, silver. There's a lot of talk, but how do you actually feel about it potentially as an investment?
I've been fully convinced that the fact that it solved the trilemma is yet. So I'm skeptically optimistic on Caspa, but I still have to like look at it and ask the right questions because I'm like, really, you solved the trilemma? Okay, let's see. Really, there's got to be something here that I'm missing because it's unlikely that you can like transact so much on a proof of work system without some sort of flaw. But I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Let's just see.
Yeah, time will tell. I mean, it's
Mhm.
very early on to make bold, claims that this is the solution to all crypto problems and things like that. And I do mention to people, you can't get too bullish on something if you don't fully understand it. And most people don't. They just, regurgitate information that other people say without really much of a technical knowledge themselves. So it's good to have caution. It's good to have skepticism. And those are signs of good investors in my eyes. And that's how I've always been when it comes to crypto. I've always gone in initially cautious and skeptical, and usually it plays you out pretty well. But yeah, Davinci, it's been an absolute honor to have you on the channel. Maybe
Thanks.
in the future we could do this again. It would be amazing. And I think my audience has loved it, and I'm sure a lot of people will watch it back as well. Have you got any final remarks to say? Where can people find you? And yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on.
Yeah, you can find me at davincej15.com or on YouTube at davincej15. Also, everywhere it's davincej15. If you just Google davincej15, and it used to be my username, and it still is my username, really. I wasn't expecting to be famous, and I just left it as davincej15 as my whole identity. So it's easy to find, easy to search, a lot easier than searching just Da Vinci, which is my real name.
Leonardo da Vinci.
That's right.
Yeah. So thank you so much. You know, you're a great person in the space to have around. Very humble despite your huge success in crypto as well. So I appreciate you coming on the show. Everyone go and check out Davinci. I'm sure 99% of you guys already know who he is, but there's always that 1% who don't. So go and check him out. You'll learn a lot. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
And thank you everyone for watching. It's been a great show.
Cheers.
Thank you.